What is happening, Blades? And welcome back to the Blades Ramble. I am, of course, Jimmy. We are proudly sponsored by Action Coach Sheffield. If you're a growing business and need help to continue that growth, they are the people to speak to, and we are evidence of that. Thank you also to our Ramblers who support us, whether it be through YouTube, by becoming a member, or whether it's through Patreon, where you get added layers of perks and things like that. Thank you to everybody that supports this channel. It genuinely does mean the world to us. We wouldn't be growing at the rate that we have if it wasn't for your support. So thank you. And as of recording, there has been no change in the managerial hot seat at Bramall Lane. So that likely means Eki gets another game. We roll on to Burnley, and there'll be a Burnley preview coming up later in the week on the Ramble. So keep tuned for that. If you're not already, please do subscribe and tap that bell so you don't miss anything that we're releasing. But today we're going to be talking about the contract situation at Sheffield United. We've got so many players, more than 20 players out of contract at the end of the season. And you may see that as a huge reason to panic because we've no security. A lot of our assets are winding down their value and we may lose them for nothing. You may also see it as a golden opportunity to clear the decks and start afresh with a new squad and a new wave of players that are going to take our club forward. So today, my original thoughts for this video were going to be, we'd do two types of contract renewal. We'll look at a squad rebuild in terms of which players we're going to retain, but we'll look at one avenue if we're going to be a Premier League side, and we'll look at another if we're going to be a Championship side. Now, I don't think it's fair to dangle the carrot of safety in the current predicament that we're in. If it looks like we're going to survive in the coming weeks, then we can revisit this and do another version for a potential next season in the Premier League. However, I think it is the sensible approach, and I am not giving up on this season because I think if there's change, then we will potentially be back in with a shout. However, as things stand, we are looking at the squad and how it goes forward for Sheffield United Football Club, which players come with us next season, particularly if we're planning for the Championship, and which ones do we say thanks and goodbye. So, first up, obviously, League One Wes.
Are we crazy?
Wes Fodringham. He's the first of a few today that might split opinion because I know some will quote his stats that he has saved the most shots in the Premier League and he has stopped the most shots on target or whatever it might be, but that doesn't take into account the volume that he's faced. We are facing over 20 shots on average a game. And our conceded goals, I haven't checked, but they will be the highest in the league. I'm not saying Wes is solely responsible for that at all. He's made glaring errors, both in the Championship and in the Premier League, as we record only last week against Bournemouth, where he comes out of the area trying to dance around players. It's just some of his decision-making is really poor. His distribution is atrocious at times. I don't rate him. As a Premier League goalkeeper, I think he did all right for us in the Championship. I think he's a decent Championship goalkeeper. The problem we've got with Wes, I think he'll be 33 at the time his contract ends at the end of the season. And that's not really a concern for a goalkeeper. They can play on for at least a couple of years at a good level. But Wes won't want to be a number two. He's been a number one in the Premier League, whether we think it's good enough or not. So I could offer Wes a contract to be a backup goalkeeper, but it would likely mean a pay cut, which will come to every player anyway on relegation, but it would likely mean a pay cut and no playing time. I don't think he's going to accept our contract offer. And to be honest, I think it's probably better if we part ways anyway. Thank you for everything, Wes. You're not getting a contract from me. Next up, Adam Davies. You've got to be a certain type of person to willingly sit on the bench knowing that you're going to be a backup goalkeeper. I think it takes a certain mentality. I'm not of the belief that you're not very ambitious if you're a backup goalkeeper, but you have to be able to push the man in front of you. And the fact that Adam Davies gets nowhere near to knocking Wes off top spot when Wes has been questionable at best, with no depth in that goalkeeping department, and it's Adam Davies's job to provide that competition to Wes. We ain't got it. Adam Davies does not get a contract. Jordi Amissa, not seen enough of him really, if we're being honest. I think he went on loan to Burton last season, didn't really stamp his authority, couldn't lay claim to a first-team place, but they've got a very good goalkeeper, Burton, to be fair. So it was going to be difficult. He ended up being then number 2 and pushing, making it competitive for him. I don't mind having another look at Jordi Amissa, 22-year-old. He's built like a right unit. If you could build a goalkeeper, he's everything that you'd want. And he looks like 6'5", athletic. I'm not sure he gets down into the corners as quickly as he potentially could, but he's not going to be the finished article at 22. I would offer Jordi Amissa a new contract, and I would send him out on loan, making sure he gets some minutes. So, yeah, Jordi Amissa, you'll get another chance in our squad. Next up, and it's a difficult one, this one. Difficult because it's sentimental, but Bash. Bash, who has faced what I think is likely to be a career-ending injury. I hope I'm wrong with that. I hope he plays again. But even if he doesn't, I don't think he was good enough in the Championship last year, playing understudy to an L. Never really let us down. Always got a bit of a mistake in him, but on the whole, usually comes up good for Sheffield United. And what a fantastic servant he's been in his 10th year with us now at the club. But we have to evolve. We have to continue to evolve as a football club. And at 35 years old, do we offer him another contract? Is he going to be in our squad week in, week out, taking what is going to be a very decent wage? I think we say thank you very much to Bash and see him on his way. But he goes with our absolute best wishes, and what a player he's been for us. Thank you, Bash, but you don't get a contract. Next up, John Eagan. Another one that divides opinion, particularly this season. There's signs that point to him potentially being past his peak. He's 31 now, still playing regularly for the Republic of Ireland when fit. He's obviously out injured till around February, March time, which is a huge blow for us, but he wasn't playing well this season. There's no two ways about it. And I was as surprised as I think the majority of us were in how poor he was, which is disappointing to say out loud because I'm a huge John Eagan fan. I think what it will do for us in a roundabout way, it'll end up working in our favour because I think John Eagan maybe saw himself staying in the Premier League. I think whether that be with United or with his contract winding down, could have got a move to, it were linked strongly with West Ham at one point recently, and or an Everton or someone of that nature where he can slot in to a defence and do a decent job at Premier League level, a good pickup for someone on a free transfer or low outgoings, and do a decent job at Premier League level as a squad man potentially. But I think the start to his Premier League season, he won't have the same suitors. I'm sure of it. Anybody that's seen him recently, he's not an attractive proposition to come in and pay decent money to. So I think John Eagan will come back down with us, and I will be offering John Eagan a contract to stay at Sheffield United. And I think that works out well for everybody, player, club, and I think he'll continue to do a fantastic job for us if we're in the Championship next year. Next up, Max Lowe. Difficult one, this, because we've tried with 2 loan players to sort this left wing-back problem out, because Max Lowe's been injured. As we know, Reese Norrington Davis is out injured. Luke Thomas and Larouci will both go back. We're not going to sign them. They haven't been up to scratch either, to be honest. Max Lowe has never really done it for us in a Blades shirt. He did a decent job on loan at Forest, but I think Max Lowe might be one of those that we move out of the club, maybe even as soon as January. So I will not be offering Max Lowe a new contract, and I think it's a position we need to look at improving. I think he's probably a decent Championship player, but if we're looking to rebuild and he's been on Premier League wages, yes, he gets a reduction, but we can get somebody on equivalent that's going to do a better job than Max Lowe, in my opinion. So Max Lowe does not get a contract for me. Conversely, Reese Norrington Davis, I'm offering him a contract all day long. Whether he takes it or not, I'm not sure. I think he has to, really, with his recent injury. I just hope he comes back. Same type of player that he was. He's been out over a year now, which is a huge concern. And you never know what they're going to come back like. But there were teams sniffing around, Premier League teams sniffing around when we were in the Championship when he first went down injured. So he will have offers on the table. He's a Welsh international. I think very highly of Reese, and I think we could do with tying him down to a good contract, rewarding him for his hard work getting fit again, and hoping that we can get the same return out of him that we got before the injury. So Reese Norrington Davis, you are definitely getting a contract offer from me. George Baldock, my favourite player, George Baldock. Absolutely love him. Him and Cameron Archer are my 2 boys, as you know. I will throw the kitchen sink trying to keep George Baldock, but if I'm being realistic, and I have to be, look, I'm offering him everything. But I think George Baldock leaves Sheffield United if we're relegated. I don't think he signs a new deal. We've already got offers on the table from the Super League in Greece, and I think he takes them up on that. It's a Champions League move potentially for him. It keeps his international career alive. When his contract runs out of the 31, his last real chance he's got to stay at the top level. Will he want to go again in the Championship and come back at 32 into the Premier League? Every year is precious for him now, and I think although he does love the club, it's clear the way he goes about his business. He absolutely loves the Blades, and we love him. I don't think he stays with us, but I'm offering him a deal. Fingers crossed he accepts it. Come on, Georgie. Jayden Bogle, and this is kind of in line with the last one we talked about. So with Georgie Baldock, I think, leaving, I think Jayden steps up. I think it's his time in the Championship to cement his place as a first teamer. I think he will sign for us because I think he's been very patchy in terms of his form. At times he looks very good, and at other times he looks quite poor, to be honest. So not been his best season for form. He's obviously struggled with injury the last couple of years, and I think Jayden Bogle's done enough to earn a contract and have a decent run in the Sheffield United first team. Jayden Bogle gets another deal. Femi Siriki went out on loan to Rochdale and did not pull up any trees. It's one of the few really disappointing prospects to come through our academy recently. It looked at one stage like he had all the tools, big, strong, quick right wing back, but he's been overtaken, and not just by Baldock and Bogle. He's been overtaken by another lad who I'm going to come on to in a minute, but because of those reasons, there isn't the room to be carrying what will soon be 22-year-old Femi Siriki, who I hope goes on to have a good career. But in the similar vein to your George Broadbents and your Zach Brunts, I think he's going to have to start a little bit lower down and build his way back up. So best of luck to Femi Siriki, but he's not getting a contract. Sai Satchdev, the man that's overtaken Femi Siriki for me in terms of the up-and-coming right-sided defender for Sheffield United. Will he be a new George Baldock? Will he be a new Bash? Will he be the first Sai Satchdev? But what I'm saying with that is he can play right wing-back. He can play the right side of a three. He's come through the England youth system as well. Really exciting prospect. I'd love to see Sai get an unfamiliar deal for our youth prospects and get an extended contract where he goes out on loan, learns his trade, comes back a better player, and we've still got several years on his deal for Sheffield United to benefit out of that development. So Sai Satchdev, friend of the channel, definitely gets a new contract. Harry Boys, out on loan currently at Wickham, has played in the majority of their games this season, most of those being starts, but it's League One level. And he hasn't really pushed on. Been on loan at Forest Green Rovers, on loan at Lincoln. Not really making the impacts that we'd hoped for him so far. I know Darren Smith's a huge fan of Harry. I like the look of him as well, but he needs to place higher in the football pyramid to be able to be tested and to come on at the level that we want. But playing regular football, we can't complain at that. I think he gets a chance in the first team squad just for that balance on the left-hand side, maybe being an understudy to Reese Norrington Davis in the Championship will serve him well. So yeah, Harry Boys, you get a new deal. Okay, this one is really tricky for me, and it'll split opinion like it always does, because this man is the epitome of Marmite. But Oly Norwood. Oly Norwood. Does Oly Norwood get a new contract? There's pros and cons to Oly Norwood, much more significant than most players. I think they're glaringly obvious with Oly. Sometimes he holds onto the ball too long. He overplays a pass. I think he sometimes thinks he's slightly better than he is. I also think that we build our team around him when he's in the side on occasions in terms of he dictates how we play, and I think that's dangerous to rely on one player like that. However, we have always gone really well in the Championship with Oly Norwood in our side. He'll be 33 at the time his contract comes up for renewal. So this is probably last chance saloon. But because of what he can give to us, and I'm not saying he starts every game, but I think we've got to offer Oly Norwood a contract, because when he's bad, he's very, very bad. But when he's good, he's brilliant. So we have to be right. Some would have him down as our best player, and some would have him down as one of our worst. But for those occasions where we can get the best out of him, I genuinely think he improves us significantly. So Oly Norwood, you're squeaking your way to a new contract with me. And while it's yes to Norwood, it's no to another Blades legend, John Fleck. John Fleck has been a superb servant to Sheffield United. I cannot say any other. I've thoroughly enjoyed watching him all the way through the Wilder years. He came up from League One, did not look out of place in the Premier League that first season. What a player he has been for Sheffield United. That goal in that game to start us off. Absolutely brilliant. But I genuinely think he's well past his peak. He's struggled with injuries recently. I still think there's a career to be had for John Fleck for the next couple of years, maybe up in Scotland. I don't think it's at Sheffield United. Flecky, thank you for everything to both you and your brother Jimmy. No new deal for Flecky. Izzy Koulibaly, another controversial figure at United who has not quite done it for whatever reason. And again, it's injuries. Same old for United. But when we've seen him, there has been flashes. And I think if we can get him on a decent wage, I'd like to see him out on loan somewhere properly, to see somewhere close by. I'm not saying over at Beershot, where we don't know what's happening with him. We don't know how he's playing week to week. Get him out on loan in League One or something like that. Get him up to speed, playing regular games. If he goes half a season and he's not very impressive, then we can cut ties. But as long as it's a cheap enough deal for us, I wouldn't mind giving Izzy Koulibaly one last throw of the dice if he can get himself fit. It's a big if. Ben Osborne. Another one that some people will defend to the hilt because he is, for me, a jack of all trades and a master of none. We don't quite know, 3-4 years on, what Ozzy's best position is. I don't think Eki knows. But he does love having him in the squad. I always thought he was a decent utility man in the Championship. But he'll be 29 when his contract runs out. And while that's not old for a player, and I would not be upset to see him carry on if we're relegated, because I think he's, like I say, he's a decent squad man to have in terms of his versatility. I still don't think he massively improves us. I don't want him getting anywhere near the starting 11, because if he does, then I think we're struggling in terms of quality. But not a bad option off the bench. But if you're asking me to make a decision here and now, he doesn't get a deal for me. Jilly Booboo. We've not seen Booboo for a while. A Booboo. He's another one of those youth prospects that he's not been given a chance recently in the first team. Quite versatile, plays anywhere down the left-hand side. I would like to see a little bit more of him. He's only 20 years old, and I think there's potentially more to come from him. I'm reluctant to let these youth lads just disappear when they've been in and around the first team at times. There's got to be something there. So you're going to get one last chance with me, Gilly, and hopefully you can make the most of it, pal. Andre Brooks, somebody who I think we have done a disservice to by not letting him go out on loan. He's one of our brightest prospects. We're keeping him at the club and not involving him in games. And it's a crying shame, really, because Eki's got the tick now to say that he's blooded him as a youngster and he's given him his debut and he counts towards Eki's tally of blooding all these youngsters. But what's happening with his development now? You see him in the under-21s doing a great job. Why can't he do similar to what Blaster's done and go out and get minutes under his belt? If we're not going to include him, let him go and develop and let him accelerate that development by playing regular football. Do right by Andre Brooks. He definitely gets another contract. And let's get him some minutes, whether it's with us or elsewhere, because he's got a future at Sheffield United. Oly Blaster, born a blade, friend of the channel, 100% gets a new deal. Gone out on loan to Port Vale, taking it by the scruff of the neck, done a really good job, played in the majority of games. He's played in every game he's been eligible to play in, and I say that because he's seen red this season already. But he's got himself on the score sheet. He's set up goals. He's developing just as you'd want him to, really. I mean, the decision for us now is, do we bring him back in January and either place him elsewhere, perhaps in the Championship, or do you let him have a full season? And for me, I think you let him have that full season. He's only 19. He'll be 20 by the time his contract comes around. But I would love to see us give him a lengthy deal. This kid has got talent in abundance. He will play a big part in our future as a club if we allow him to develop the right way. Oly Blaster gets the deal all day long. And on to the strikers now. And there's only two that are out of contract now because we've tied up Willa Sula, which is a great bit of business. The first one being Ollie Mack. And for me, it's a no-brainer, really, this one. I think, yes, he splits opinion also, a bit like Norwood, a bit like Wes. Some people think we need more goals from him, and I can't argue that case. Ollie McBurney is a huge part of this football club. He's a big character, and I think he's well-liked. He's maturing. He's becoming a stronger and stronger ambassador for the football club. He's the first one to come and face the cameras after a poor result and, stick his head above the parapet, if you like. I think he's potentially captain material, which we've talked about. He's somebody you'd want on your side. You want in the trenches with you when you're in trouble. And I think in the Championship, as we've seen, he can have a significant impact on our push trying to return to the Premier League, if we're to be relegated, obviously. Ollie definitely gets a new contract for me. And lastly, Jebo. Now, I would offer Jebison a contract. I don't think he's going to sign it, if I'm honest. So I think the injuries come at a bad time for us. And why would he sign with us when he could sign for a Premier League club and then get loaned to the Championship? So why come and play with us in the Championship when he can be on the books of a Prem team? This is obviously on the proviso that we get relegated. The only way we were going to keep Jebo was to give him a run in the team. And because he got injured, we couldn't do that. But do we think it's a great loss? I personally think that Asula has overtaken him now. And if we can get Asula the minutes, then potentially going to work out okay for United anyway. We will get a fee if he leaves when he's out of contract because of his age. We'll get a tribunal fee. But I think Jebo will leave the club in the summer, if not before, to be honest. So it's a shame. I'm offering him a contract, but I don't think he'll stay. So those are my decisions on the contracts we should offer if we were to be relegated to the Championship. And it leaves us with a squad looking like this. Significant holes, as you can see, chance to have some fresh blood in there. And you'll notice some significant absences. And that is because I don't think if we are relegated, we know that Cameron Archer doesn't come with us. I don't think Gus Hamer comes with us. I don't think Anel, George Baldock, as I've talked about, and I don't think Vinny Souza comes down to the Championship with us either. That will provide us with a significant budget to strengthen in the summer. So while this looks like a fairly weak side at the moment, and it's not quite ready for the Championship, we have got a significant budget to wipe the slate clean and go again. And I think we could. I think we could go really well. And if that is the case, if that is what we're going to do, if we are preparing for life after some of these big players for Sheffield United, who are out of contracts at the end of the season and we've already made our minds up, then why not in January don't we go out and sign a Victor Johansson? Why don't we sign a Mike Cooper to replace Wes, to replace Adam Davis even? So we go out in the summer, we get Victor Johansson from Rotherham, £5 million, and he's our new number one for the next 4 or 5 years. We have always been and goalkeeper's just one position, but we have always been a club that's had strong goalkeepers. Long gone are the days of Alan Kelly and Simon Tracy battling it out for number one, but Dean Henderson, Paddy Kenny, great goalkeepers down the line. Wes, for me, isn't in that league. And we need to strive to get back to having quality goalkeepers and build from the back, having tough defenders. As much as I've slated Jack Robinson in the past, because I think he's going to mistake him, he's got better and better, and he's in the ilk of a Chris Morgan, somebody who embodies everything we're about as a football club. But let's build that culture again and give somebody, whether it be Eke, Wilder, whoever, the opportunity to go again and rebuild us. This is a real chance to wipe the slate clean with a significant budget, having sold these great players, and go again. We can do this. Don't forget, this is worst case scenario, but this is building for the future. This is safeguarding our club. And as much as some of these players like Arblasty might think, oh no, it's a big ask, it's a huge weight on his shoulders. Well, it is. But in fast forward 2 or 3 years, he could be a really significant player for us. Every player starts off in a youth team somewhere, don't they? And they have to come through the ranks. So it can be done. Keep the faith, Blades. Whatever happens, we will be smiling again. So let me know in the comments what you think, whether you agree, whether you disagree, whether you think I'm harsh, whether you think I'm daft. Would you make similar calls? Would you make a completely different call and sign the majority back up and try and go again? I think a lot of these guys are past their peak, but again, it's all about opinions. If you like what we do, please do like, comment, share, and subscribe. Help the channel to grow. But for now, come on, you red and white wizards. Up the blades. Ramble on.